What's up, guys? It's Belty, and I have an announcement to make. I'm officially competing in the NPC Pacific, which is August 22nd, 2026. So that's somewhat shifted the goalpost. I'm 19 weeks out from that show. Still plan on competing in the Sasquatch Pro-Am, but that one's going to come up first. Give me some practice, make sure I can get my posing down, and hopefully have a more seamless time and have a better look at the second show. So the cut is in full swing now. As of today, I have been on a calorie deficit for the last month and 1 week. And I'm down from about 195 pounds to about 180. And whether you're bulking or cutting, both take eating. So I'm going to show you what a full week of eating looks like on this prep. If you watched the last video, I'll add a card somewhere up above for that. That focused on my training split, but now we're going to move into nutrition and all that good stuff. And the goal with that is pretty dang simple. It's just to hold on to muscle as I get leaner and leaner. And since my last video, I have hired a competition coach, and he has given me a specific meal plan and calorie and macro goal. And those would happen to be 2,400 calories, 183 grams of protein, 265 grams of carbs, and 55 grams of fat. And from there, we'll probably do a more aggressive phase for a bit and just adjust as the prep goes on. So this week of eating happened to be also the week of Easter, which somewhat complicated things, but I have some workarounds, which I'll discuss later. And to look back at these meals is a breeze because I log everything that I eat with Macro Factor. I have a history of all of my meals that I've logged, which is all of them for the most part. There were some exceptions while I was bulking, but different time. So without further ado, let's go over my first day on this full week of eating. I'd start off the day with 3 brown rice cakes from Trader Joe's, one of them with a tablespoon of peanut butter, and all 3 of them with 2 teaspoons worth of honey. Now to clarify, I did not put 2 teaspoons on each individual rice cake, but between the 3, put on 2 teaspoons. And I ate that at 4:30 in the morning because I was hitting the gym at 5. So that served as my pre-workout meal. My post-workout meal I ate at 9:23, and that consisted of 9 ounces of non-fat Greek yogurt, plain, from Trader Joe's, 1 scoop of whey protein from Fluid. Big shout out to Fluid and the homies that work there. They are my plug when it comes to whey protein, creatine, and electrolytes. And with that, I had half a serving of Joe's O's from Trader Joe's, and about 30 grams of frozen blueberries with 2 more teaspoons of honey on top. And this served as a kind of anabolic cereal of sorts. Depends on how you ask. It could just be considered slop, but my next meal was just before 12:30, and it consisted of 3 scrambled eggs and some low-fat cottage cheese from Trader Joe's. I believe it's 1.5% fat for that stuff. And along with that, I also had a maple glazed donut protein bar from One, or Fiber One, whatever that company's called. Usually eggs satiate me really well, where I don't have to eat for hours before feeling hungry at all. And that day was no different, because the next meal I had was dinner, and that was at 6:40, and that consisted of ground chicken from Trader Joe's, which I had put some herbs and spices of my liking onto that. I had 6.5 ounces of white rice, 4 ounces of roasted gold potatoes, which I had roasted on Sunday to meal prep for the week, 4 ounces of Brussels sprouts, which I'd also meal prepped on Sunday. And for dessert, I had this protein bar from Raw Nutrition. I had gotten it with a recent order I made through them, and all I can say it was a bit disappointing. And the total macros for this day were a bit off of what Coach said, but they were at just under 2,300 calories, 181 grams of protein, 69 grams of fat, and 245 grams of carbs. So most of these meals are pretty repeatable, which is nice because I'm someone that can have the same foods pretty much every day with some variety here and there. Most of the meals are high protein and relatively easy to digest. I have been trying to add more fiber into my diet just to help with, bowel movement regularity and all that jazz. So you will see that I'm getting a decent amount of fiber throughout the week as well, which for this first day was probably my lowest at just under 20 grams. For day 2, I had begun the day with my overnight oats that I had prepped the night before, which consist of about 5.5 ounces of that same non-fat Greek yogurt from Trader Joe's, 2 tablespoons of chia seeds from Trader Joe's, 2 ounces of rolled oats from 2 ounces of rolled oats, a scoop of fluids protein, and 2 teaspoons of honey. I love my honey. It makes Greek yogurt way, way better. And just in case you were wondering, this was my pre-workout meal. I think I went to the gym around 5 or 6 that day as well. And my post-workout meal was ground beef and roasted potatoes, which was more stuff that I had meal prepped from the week before. Just afternoon, I had a full sugar electrolyte stick from Fluid, just to give me a little energy boost. Then just after 2, I had about 5 ounces of that low-fat cottage cheese. And then next meal I had was dinner, which I had this Chipotle turkey sandwich from CalFresh, which I had let MacroFactors AI decide the calories for that. And I'm gonna be honest, I was probably off on it because the next day I woke up a bit heavier than I thought I was gonna be. Regardless, my mom gave it to me and I wasn't gonna let it go to waste. I hate seeing food go to waste, and so if there's something that's not gonna get eaten, then I'm gonna eat it. Unless it's some crazy dessert or a Big Mac or something. Then I had 4 ounces of white rice, 4 more ounces of those Brussels sprouts that I prepared earlier, and the leftover ground chicken that I had prepared the day before, which I had clocked at about 2 ounces. After that, I had a little dessert situation, which was 6 ounces of that Greek yogurt with another scoop of protein powder from Fluid. That is definitely a staple in my entire diet. I just find that combining those two things just makes plain Greek yogurt way more enjoyable. There's definitely an intentional amount of repetition because when you're dieting, consistency beats variety, especially if you don't know exactly what's going into your body. Say you're at a family gathering and there's lots of temptations around. Variety's nice, but if you could just have the basics, then you're pretty chilling. And Tuesday's macros at the end of the day were 2,342 calories, 183 grams of protein, 83 grams of fat, and 225 grams of carbs. Now, day 3 was a rest day for me, and so I didn't need a pre-workout meal, but I had some early client sessions and I wanted to knock out some steps early in the day. At about 4:45, I had eaten a Built Puff brownie batter flavor, which is a protein bar thing that has some really good macros. And along with that, I had a latte that I made at home with 3 ounces of 2% milk. And the next real meal I had was at 9:30, and that was some oatmeal. So to prepare these oats, I had 2 servings worth, so a cup of oats, and cook them over the stove. While they're cooking, I throw in some cinnamon. Right after they're done, I throw in a scoop of whey protein from Fluid, and then I add 5.5 ounces of Greek yogurt, 140 grams of frozen blueberries, and about 20 grams of honey. I went with measuring my honey this time as opposed to just eyeballing it, which later down in prep is going to be more important. And then with that, I also had a chocolate peanut caramel pure protein bar, which is a pretty good protein to calorie ratio pure protein bar. My next meal I had was at 2:30 in the afternoon, and that consisted of 2 medium fried eggs and 1 large banana. I then had another electrolyte stick from Fluid, full sugar. And then that carried me to dinner, which was around 6:30. I had more of the ground beef and potatoes that I had prepared earlier in the week, along with some more Brussels sprouts. And that was 7 ounces of ground beef, 7.5 ounces of potatoes, 5.5 ounces of roasted Brussels sprouts, and then 2 ounces of white rice. And then I had a little bit more of my protein cereal, whatever you want to call it, with the 6 ounces of Greek yogurt, 1 scoop of fluid protein, and the half serving of Joe's O's. Total macros for day 3 were roughly 2,300 calories, 2,265 to be exact, 193 grams of protein, 50 grams of fat, and 270 grams of carbs. So the biggest thing during prep is to not overcomplicate your diet. The more repeatable your meals are, the easier it is to stay on track, and if you do things right, stay satiated, stay full, and not think about a bunch of cravings and stuff. For me, once I've accepted my fate, I know that the food noise will eventually go away once my brain realizes that there's no going out of this until the diet is done and that my goals are achieved. So if you can get in the same mindset and have that discipline to stick to your diet, then you're golden. Now, day 4, I had woken up a little later and had my 3 rice cakes with the peanut butter and the honey at around 5 o'clock, and that was my pre-workout meal. Post-workout, I had a maple glazed donut protein bar by Fiber One, and that was just to tide me over until I got home after I did my cardio. Speaking of cardio, I will be making a video going over my current cardio routine and how I run all of that. Next, around 8:45, I had about 3 ounces of Greek yogurt. I just ate it straight out of the tub, along with a coffee, which I put 4 ounces of 2% milk in. After that, I had a video gig that I was doing in Avila, which is a small beach town around where I live. And finally ate lunch around 1:30 with a turkey bacon avocado wrap and a little pasta salad from Woodstone Market. Great place, you should stop by. Good stuff there. After that, I tried to make it as long as I could without eating food, but settled for a small banana at about 5. And then around 7:15, I had dinner, and that consisted of 6 ounces of 96.4 ground beef, 5 more ounces of those potatoes, and 5.5 ounces of Brussels sprouts, along with 2 ounces of roasted broccoli. And to round out day 4, I consumed a total of around 2,300 calories, 148 grams of protein, 89 grams of fat, and 254 grams of carbs. Not ideal on the protein, but we make it up later in the week. So for day 5, I had a more genuine anabolic cereal, in my opinion. And in that, I had about 3/4 of a serving of Joe's O's, 1 scoop of protein from fluid, 140 grams of blueberries, about 1¼ cup of 2% milk, and 1 large banana. And that served as my pre-workout meal. At 9:30, I had another built puff to tide me over until I got home after my cardio. Once I got home, I had 1 fried egg, and that was at about 10. And then at 11:30, I had 4 ounces of the low-fat cottage cheese, along with more of those roasted potatoes. Day 5, I had also done a grocery haul where I had picked up a lot of ingredients that my wife and I were going to use to make some different dinners. And while I was there, I picked up this drink called Ultra High Protein Vanilla Shake by Slate. And this boasted 42 grams of protein for 190 calories, so I could not pass that up. So I had that around 3:45. And the next thing I had was half a serving of almond milk that I picked up at the store, along with about a teaspoon of honey that I just straight up stuck in my mouth. And then for dinner that night, my wife made chicken orzo with broccoli, which I ate at around 6:15. Still had some calories left over for the day. So around 8, I had 4 ounces of white rice with 4 ounces of rotisserie chicken breast from Vaughn's. So just want to touch on my pre and post workout meals. It's usually where most of my protein and carbs go. Usually try to leave fats out of those so I can make sure to train hard and recover to the best of my ability. And to end off Friday's calories, I was just under 2,100 calories with 188 grams of protein, 41 grams of fat, and 238 grams of carbs. That brings us to day 6, which I did this starting on Monday, so this would take us to Saturday. And that day, I was opening at the gym, which meant that I was working from about 6:30 to 1 p.m. and so I wouldn't get a chance to work out until after 1, and so I had to save my pre-workout meal for later in the day. So I ate my breakfast at around 5:30, and for that I had 2 slices of Heroes seeded bread, which has a ton of fiber in it, about 12 grams per slice, which is insane, and 2 fried eggs, and 2 teaspoons of honey drizzled over both of those egg and toast situations. One of the gym members was really nice, and she brought me this sugar-free vanilla bean coffee from Starbucks with the protein in there. I did some looking up and found that it was 180 calories for 23 grams of protein, 4 grams of fat, 12 grams of carbs. So I was like, oh shoot, why not? And so I had that around 8:45. My pre-workout meal I had at around 11:30, which was some more of those overnight oats that I had prepared the night before. And for that, I put the exact same ingredients in, exact same measurements to make it easy. And then just before 1, I had a large banana, just as a little extra pre-workout magic. And then for post-workout, more of that ground chicken and rice, 300 grams worth. And then more of that Vaughn's rotisserie chicken meat with 4 ounces of white rice. And that was 5 ounces of the chicken breast. And that night I was going to a race at our local Santa Maria Speedway. And there were some concessions that could have been bought, but I tried to avoid those. And all I had was one of those chocolate peanut caramel pure protein bars, and then a built brownie batter puff, along with 1.5 cups of buttered popcorn that my father-in-law had bought for all of us. And that ends us off at 2,346 calories, 192 grams of protein, 61 grams of fat, and 277 grams of carbs. And that brings us to Sunday, which happened to be Easter, and was another rest day for me. I started off the morning at 7 with eating my oatmeal the same way I had prepared it before, but this time I had eaten a hard-boiled egg that my coworker had given me the day before, which came in clutch. That lasted me until about 12:30, where I had just had a small banana. And then I had gone to a work party for Pal Mesa Pizza, where there was a lot of yummy stuff there, but I settled for some fruit that they had there, which was watermelon and pineapple. And I think I had about 5 slices of watermelon and about half a cup to a cup of pineapple. And they had some gelato, so I went for about a 1/4 cup of that. After that, I had gone over to my in-laws, which I was looking forward to having a pastrami sandwich, and I was trying to bank all my calories for the day in order to really indulge in that goodness right there. And so we ate at around 4:30, and with that pastrami sandwich, I had also had chocolate nutrition shake from Fairlife, which the in-laws keep in stock, which is pretty amazing. And then to end the day out, when I was getting a little hungry at the end of the Easter celebration, I had another built puff with another nutrition shake from Fairlife. And the calories for this day, roughly, I was kind of guessing on the pastrami sandwich, if I'm being honest, were around 2279 calories, 196 grams of protein, 66 grams of fat, and 243 grams of carbs. So it's important to remember to stay locked in on all your meals, even with some fun here and there. Keeping all the variables that you have under your control in check is how you make sure to stay on your plan. So like I promised, I continued to delve into the 100x Life Challenge book and pick up where I left off as far as reading goes. And in doing so, I have 3 takeaways to impart to you guys. In order to be an ongoing Jesus follower, repenting and believing is a very important concept. The belief of Jesus being real and developing a personal relationship with him will lead you to turn away from the sin that is in your life. And even the sin that feels like is insurmountable is always going to be there and is nagging at you from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. If you believe in Jesus, then you can believe that he has the power to transform you and take away that sin from you. Knowing that there's a God that can help rewire your brain through his spoken word, through the Bible, and help you turn away from your natural sinful desires is pretty amazing. You're on camera. You want to say something to the people? No?
Gets full.
Alright, well that's good enough. The next piece of wisdom I learned was to follow Jesus. And by that meaning to follow his teachings and live it out as opposed to just processing it. Processing is great, learning things about Jesus is great, but if you don't apply it to your life, then you're missing the point. And lastly is to obey Jesus. Not every day you're going to want to get up and follow the other 2 pieces of wisdom that I mentioned earlier. Some days you might be on fire for God, and other days you could be really just not feeling it. Just as there's physical discipline, there's also spiritual discipline. And whenever you don't give in to your flesh and stay obedient to God and his teachings, you are developing your self-control and your ability to be a Jesus disciple. This book describes self-control as taking the reins of control from your body and handing it over to your spirit. And when you're just starting out, it can feel a bit like pulling teeth, but eventually it'll be just like brushing your teeth, to where it's an everyday habit that no matter what is going on in your life, you can come back to, and you do it without even thinking. It reminds me of this gentleman that I follow on Instagram named Jeremy Shelton, which in almost every one of his videos, he says, no matter how you feel or what you're going through, you gotta
make sure that last rep is hard to do.
And you can apply the same concept from the gym into your real life. Your life gym. Your gym in your life. For me, that's a good visual comparison because I'm just love the gym. So now that I'm 19 weeks out, my dedicated cardio that I do is starting to go up, and I'll be breaking that down in the next video. So that's a full week of eating, 19 weeks out from the NPC Pacific on August 22nd. Nothing crazy, just consistency and structure that is built around the goal. If you're following this prep, let me know and drop down any questions that you might have about anything that I'm doing. But with that being said, it's time to get to work.